Hey everybody, welcome to the first deck tech from Low Tech MTG. You can see how low tech we are. This is the intro slide. So I just have my iPhone on a small tripod with a Rode Video Mic Me, and this is how we're doing it. Low tech. So first deck tech, we're gonna look at Sram Senior Edificer. That gnarly guy there, he looks like the guy from Gears of War. So Sram is a mono white commander, and his tricks are whenever you cast an aura, equipment, or vehicle spell, you draw a card. So we're gonna make an equipment deck. We're not doing any enchantments, or sorry, any auras in here, and we're not going hard on vehicles, though we do have a few. So this is all about equipment. And it's not necessarily a Voltron deck, though you can suit up SRAM and just start beating that way. But there is a good number of other creatures that also work with equipment. So we're just gonna, play a bunch of equipment, play a bunch of creatures, punch people in the face with, dudes with swords. Being 2 mana, SRAM should always come out on turn 2. If he doesn't, you didn't mulligan correctly. So he comes out fast and he starts giving you value right away, and he starts becoming a problem immediately. So that's SRAM. Alright, so first let's look at your equipment package. I've got these divided into little groups. So first let's look at equipment that gives power and toughness boost to your creatures. So first up, you have Godsend. So it's 1 and 2 white, and it's going to give you a +3/+3 boost, and it's going to exile a blocking creature. So that's pretty fantastic. Opponents can't cast cards with the same name as things exiled with Godsend, which isn't really going to come up in Commander, but hey, it's +3/+3 and exile stuff, so that's pretty good in our book. Sword of Fire and Ice, classic, pro red blue and +2/+2. And it's going to shock things and draw cards when you hit the player. So that's fantastic. Sword of the Animist. It's 2 mana there, and it's only going to give +1/+1, but whenever the equipped creature attacks, we're going to fetch out a basic land, put it on the battlefield tapped. And since our deck is 27 basic planes, this is going to ramp us for days. Sword of Vengeance. This gives +2/+0, first strike, vigilance, trample, and haste. So that's pretty solid. Gives us a lot of keywords, gives us a power boost, and the +2 combines with first strike nicely. So this is just a great piece of equipment. We've got Bloodforged Battle Axe. So this is just a strictly better bone splitter. So it gives +2/+0. And whenever it deals combat damage to a player, we make a token copy of Bloodforged Battle Axe. So it just keeps making axes. And it can get out of control, especially if you have double strike. So that's going to make 2. And if you, it can get really bad. And of course, Batterskull, because Batterskull. At 5 mana, it's a little rough. But if you have SRAM out, and you're getting a card out of it too. So, and hey, it comes with a germ, so that's fine. 5 mana for 4/4 vigilance and lifelink is pretty solid. And we do have Stoneforge Mystic, so if you really can't afford to pay the 5 mana for it, we can still just get it onto the battlefield and start doing stuff with it. So next up, we're going to look at our protection equipment. So we have Lightning Greaves. So for 2 mana and 0 to equip, we get Haste and Shroud. Haste is good, and Shroud is kind of a double-edged sword, equipment pun, because when our creature has Shroud, we can't equip other things to it. So that gets kind of annoying. You have to move the Greaves off to some other creature, and then put your equipment on, and then you can move the Greaves back. So that gets a little frustrating, but hey, it gives your stuff protection from your other removal spells from your other players in the pod. Whisper Silk Cloak, 3 mana, 2 to equip. Also gives Shroud, but importantly it says can't be blocked. So that's important. If you end up going down the Voltron route of just that's how your hand plays out, making sure Sram gets in for damage is how you're going to win. So you hit that 21 commander damage. To go along with Shroud, protecting your creatures, we also have Darksteel Plate, 3 mana, 2 to equip, and it just makes the equipped creature indestructible. So it gets around Wrath of God, gets around all sorts of stuff, destroy spells. It's great, and it itself is destructible, which we will talk about after we're done all these equipment. Hammer of Nazan, as from the 2017 Feline Ferocity deck. 4 mana, 4 to equip. You get +2/+0 and indestructible, so that's nice. But it also cheats all your equip costs, because whenever it or another equipment enters the battlefield under our control, we may attach it to target creature we control. So that's fantastic. Batterskull was how much to equip? 5? Yeah, how about 0? How about we just cast it for 5, draw a card, hook it up, and just get right to it. I think that's pretty good. So now this little batch of equipment, we're going to start with Viridian Longbow. So 1 mana for equipment, and of course that's going to draw us a card with Sram, so that's pretty good. It does cost 3 to equip, so that's kind of unfortunate. And all it does is give the creature tap to deal 1 damage to target creature or player. This is kind of boring on its own, so we're going to pair it with something like Gorgon's Head. For 1 mana and 2 to equip, the equipped creature has Death Touch. So if we can tap to deal 1 damage to something, but we have Death Touch, what that says is tap to destroy target creature. So you combine Gorgon's Head and Viridian Longbow, or anything else that taps to deal 1 damage to something, like, I don't know, an Endbringer maybe. We're going to just start destroying creatures all the time. If you can't find your Gorgon's Head, well, Basilisk Collar does the same thing, and it also gets lifelink in there. So this last batch of equipment is just kind of value equipment. It doesn't really fit into any other pile, so let's get to it. Skull Clamp, because it's Skull Clamp. I mean, 1 mana, 1 to equip. When a thing dies, it draws 2 cards. So you have Sram out, you play this for 1 mana, you draw a card, you pay another mana to hook it up to a token, and you draw 2 more cards. So 2 mana, 3 cards. That's pretty good. Blade of Selves, 2 mana for equip of 4. And the equipped creature has Myriad. So Myriad basically means that you attack 1 player and it makes copies for all the other players you didn't attack. So this doesn't work with Sram or any other legendary thing, but it does work great with stuff like Sun Titan, Wingmate Rock, Stoneforge Mystic, things like that, where having the creature enter the battlefield is kind of the money. So you hook it up to your Sun Titan, and every turn you're just reanimating lands that people have destroyed or other equipment or creatures. Hook it up to Stoneforge Mystic, you're just like tutoring for 2 other pieces of equipment every combat step. Seems pretty good. We have Moonsliver Spear in shiny foil for 4 mana, equipped for 4, gives the equipped creature first strike, and whenever it attacks, we're going to make a 4/4 White Angel with flying. That's pretty good. It's just more stuff for our equipment, to attach to. So, the only thing better than 1 ground creature attacking is a bunch of angels attacking, all with swords. So that's pretty fantastic. And you might have forgot about Jite. I sure didn't. We've got Jite in here. 2 mana, 2 to equip. It slices, it dices, it does all the things. We get +2/+2, -1/-1, or gain 2 life by, doing all its counter shenanigans. It's Jite. Jite is awesome. And then we have Masterwork of Ingenuity as our last piece of equipment, and it is whatever you want it to be. It's the best piece of equipment on the battlefield right now. It's only 1 mana to cast. And, you know, you can just make another Skull Clamp, you can make another Batter Skull, you can make another Sword of Fire and Ice. If someone else has a nice piece of equipment that you like, you just copy that. So Masterwork of Ingenuity. It's pretty solid. So that was 18 pieces of equipment. There are 2 others that could go in the deck. They aren't for a couple reasons. The first is sort of Feast and Famine, and it's not here because I only have 1 copy, and the deck that it's in wants it a little more. It's obviously very good. You untap your lands, and cast a bunch of things in your second main. And then the second piece is World Slayer. So for 5 mana, equip for 5, and when it deals combat damage to a player, destroy all permanents other than World Slayer. So what you do is you pair this with Sigarda's Aid and Darksteel Plate. So you swing in with Sram, hooked up with Darksteel Plate. They don't block. And you flash in World Slayer because Sigarda's Aid lets us play equipment at instant speed. And it also lets us equip equipment when it enters the battlefield to target creature. So we go to combat, we attack, they don't block. Before damage, we flash in World Slayer, hook it up to Sram, and blow up the world. And then, so what we're left with is World Slayer, Sram, and the Darksteel Plate all hooked up. Because Sram's indestructible, so he doesn't die. So unless somebody has a untapped, mana and a 1 mana exile spell, like Swords to Plowshares or Path to Exile, or they have a 1 mana disenchant for your World Slayer, the game's pretty much over, and everybody just kind of sits around until you hit them for their 21 commander damage. So I took it out of the deck because I did that a couple times, and that got boring and annoying. So if you want to get nasty, you can put in World Slayer. So now we'll look at a portion of the creature package that just kind of synergizes with our equipment. So these are, things like Stoneforge Mystic. That can, when she enters the battlefield, we can go get an equipment out of our library and put it into our hand, and then she can also just put equipment onto the battlefield if we don't feel like paying the casting cost. Stoneforge is great. She helps you find your equipment, stuff like that. We also have Leonin Shikari, which we can equip things at instant speed, so that's pretty fantastic. We have Leonin Abunus, whatever. He gives all our artifacts hexproof. So, disenchant effects aren't gonna hack it. We have Pure Steel Paladin, which draws us a card as well. So if we have Pure Steel and Sram out, we play an equipment, we draw 2 cards. That is bonkers. And then if we have Metalcraft, which we mostly always do, all our equipment has equip 0, which is also bonkers. Next up, we have Relic Seeker. He's a 2/2 human with Renown 1. And look at him. So badass with his sweet cape. Anyway, when they hit the player and become renowned, they do a Stoneforge Mystic impersonation, and they go get equipment out of our deck. Tajnar Swordsmith. So this is from the new 2017 Feline Ferocity deck. So we can pay X to do a Stoneforge Mystic impersonation as well, except it comes right to the battlefield. So you're paying X to go get an equipment with converted mana cost X or less, and then that comes right onto the battlefield. So it's, it's a little mix of both. So you don't get to draw the card, but hey, you get equipment right out onto the battlefield. And another addition from the 2017 Cat deck is Blonde Wandering Knight. This guy is bonkers. He should almost be the commander. He could be the commander, but the card draw from Sram is just too good. So he's got First Strike, and he's got Double Strike as long as he's got 2 or more equipment on him, so, you know, that's pretty awesome, and that's usually pretty straightforward and easy to hit. And for 1 and a white, you can attach all equipment to him, and that happens at instant speed, and that gets around Shroud and silly stuff like that. So this guy is pretty bonkers. We have a couple cards that they're just synergy cards. We have stuff like Open the Armory. It's going to go get an equipment card and put it into our hand. We should also have Enlightened Tutor in here. I don't right now just because I only have so many copies and they're in other decks. One's in the mail, so that's going to go in there in this deck shortly. I can probably cut one of the generic creatures. But for right now, we have Open the Armory, and that does also exactly what we want. Just goes and fetches an equipment. We also have Sigarda's Aid. So this is your ideal turn 1 play. It says you may cast aura and equipment spells as the flash, and whenever equipment enters the battlefield under your control, you may attach it to target creature you control. So again, we can cast equipment whenever we want. We can equip it up when it comes in. It's fantastic. If you play this on turn 1, play Sram on turn 2, and then just start playing equipment and hooking up to Sram and start beating people in the face, that's a pretty good line to follow. So Sram also likes drawing cards from vehicles, and we do have a couple vehicles. The vehicles, they let our smaller creatures get in. We do make some tokens in some spots, and a lot of these vehicles are just kind of good cards, and you know, if you're drawing cards off them, well, that helps too. So we've got Smuggler's Copter, so a 3/3 flyer, and when it attacks, we can loot with crew 1. So the smallest of tokens can crew this thing up and start, you know, getting in and just poking away for 3 damage. You could attach equipment to the Smuggler's Copter if you wanted to. You know, if it's something like a GT, or if you have you know, Pure Steel out so you can equip it for free, that's a pretty good deal, but a lot of times you're just kind of doing it for the loot. Heart of Kirin, only 2 mana. Flying Vigilance 4/4, and are the few planeswalkers that we run, they can also power it up by removing a loyalty counter. So again, if Sram didn't draw cards off vehicles, I probably wouldn't play this, or frankly any of the vehicles. But because we get the card draw and Heart of Kirin is it's just a good card, so we'll play this. And finally, we have Sky Sovereign Console Flagship, the Starship Enterprise. It's going to bolt things when it attacks and enters the battlefield. And it's a reasonable crew cost. You can usually hit that no problem. Or, you know, 1 or 2 tokens, or a couple tokens will do it, 2 or 3 tokens. So there's Console Flagship. So also in mono white, we have a small contingent of Planeswalkers. Planeswalkers are rarely bad. If you get a Planeswalker out and you untap with it and keep it for a few turns, you're doing pretty good. So we've got Gideon, Ally of Zendikar. He pumps out tokens like no tomorrow. He makes an emblem, and he also just turns into big, beefy Gideon and can bash face. Though you're kind of using him for the token ability. Those 2/2 white knights, they hold equipment very well. They chump block big things very well, and they work pretty good. They crew up vehicles too. We have Nahiri the Lithomancer. So she was from one of the previous commander sets, the monocolor decks. She also pumps out tokens. She brings back equipment, or you know, from the graveyard, or lets us put it out from our hand, and she makes a gnarly a piece of equipment that gives things +5/+5 in double strike with a Crib 0. It's pretty crazy. So yeah, we're gonna play her. She's a no-brainer. She could also be the commander again, because she does have that little rider on her that says she can be your commander. But I still think Sram's better. Just the card draw is crazy. And then we have Elspeth, Sun's Champion. Again, making tokens all day long. And most of our creatures are small, so destroying all creatures with power 4 or greater is no laughing matter. And giving all our creatures flying is also no laughing matter because, you know, we can just fly over top with knight allies holding swords and Sram holding swords and all sorts of stuff. So flying, tokens, board wipes, it's great. If we want to talk about more token things, we can have some Sram's expertise. So he's going to make 3 1/1s. They can crew all of our vehicles, they can hold swords, they can chump block. But also you can cast a card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. So we can play this, get some dudes, then play a piece of equipment for free, draw a card. It's pretty good. Entreat the Angels. Hey, sometimes you just rip this and make a bunch of angels and win. You can trigger this off of SRAM if you cast an equipment. Say you have something out where you can cast your equipment at instant speed, so you flash out a sword at the end of turn and draw this, and then make a bunch of angels and untap and just win. Entreat can be pretty good. You know, sometimes it's in your opener and you never cast it and you're sad, but it's fun. And I ended up with a shiny foil copy, so I was like, yep, you're going in the deck. Our ramp package is nothing special. There's not... I mean, in mono white or colorless, you do have things like Mana Crypt, Mana Vault, things like that make all the colorless mana, and we could stand to run some more. I haven't had too many mana problems with the deck, so I haven't felt the need to add any. But we have some classics like Soul Ring, adding 2 mana for 1, so that it's pretty solid. We have land tax, so this is Italian because it's a lot cheaper. But basically, every upkeep, if an opponent controls more land than you, you get to go fetch 3 basic lands. Pretty sure it's basic lands and not basic plains. But as long as you're not going first, this is probably always the case. And you just get to Ancestral Recall every turn. I mean, you're drawing only lands, but hey, you're never going to miss your land drop. Like, this is another great turn 1 play. If you get this out and you just start filling up with lands, getting all of your lands out of your deck, so you can A, play lands, and B, draw more spells. That's pretty solid. This doesn't actually ramp, but it just makes sure you hit your land drops. And we run a Pearl Medallion because most of our stuff is white, except for the colorless, artifact stuff. But hey, it makes all our white stuff 1 less. We also have a couple value artifacts. Again, they don't really fit any specific thing. They're just good. We have Sensei's Divining Top because everybody loves top. You can look at top 3 cards, put them back in any order, or you can draw a card. So you can use that to trigger Miracle as well. But it's top. It's just top. Top's great. And a new card from Hour of Devastation. Mirage Mirror has been coming up as basically a staple in Commander now. It's colorless, and it just turns into the best artifact, creature, enchantment, or land until the end of turn. So, I mean, if you just need some extra damage, copy your Batterskull and hook that up. Now you just have 2 Batterskulls until end of turn. You can also just copy the best creature on board and hit with that. Somebody has a nice big dragon. Oh, well, now you have one too. It's great on defense because you just block with whatever they're attacking with, and life is grand. So we have a bit of a removal package, as any EDH deck should. And in mono white, we're sort of limited, but our options are actually pretty sweet. There's a classic Swords to Plowshares, so 1 white mana, exile target creature, and creature's controller gains life equal to its power. So that doesn't matter a whole lot because it's Commander, and games are going to go a little while anyway. We have Path to Exile, so same thing, 1 white mana, exile target creature, but they go get to fetch a basic land. whatever. We have Dispatch. So 1 white mana, tap target creature at instant speed, but if we have 3 or more artifacts, we can exile that creature. So this is strictly better, because we're basically always going to have Metalcraft online. Dispatch is fantastic. If there are multiple things that need attention, we have Declaration Stone. So we can exile target creature and all other creatures with the same name that are owned by that same controller. So basically this is like fighting token decks, and I play against a number of those, so Declaration Stone is great. They make a bunch of tokens, you exile them all, and it's fantastic. And also, if you just need to exile something, 2 mana is not terrible. We also have Return to Dust. So this blows up, or it exiles artifacts or enchantments, and we can blow 1 up for 4 mana at instant speed, or we can blow 2 up at sorcery speed. Not even sorcery speed, just if we wait till our main phases, we can blow 2 up. We also have Collective Effort. This card could be cut. It's not super great, but it still does some things. We can destroy big creatures, power 4 or greater. We can destroy enchantments, because sometimes there's just annoying enchantments out. Like, I don't know. Just sometimes you just need to destroy an enchantment. It happens. And, putting counters on all of our creatures is not nothing, but it's not great. This card definitely could get cut. If you have suggestions, leave them in the comments. For mass board wipes, we run Fumigate. So we're going to destroy all creatures and gain a life for each creature destroyed this way. That's 5 mana. That's fine. We have Rout, also 5 mana, also destroys all creatures, but we can play it at instant speed if we pay 2 more. So that's pretty good. And the old classic, Wrath of God, 4 mana, destroy all creatures, can't be regenerated. If you're not running this in a white deck, I don't know what you're doing, but you're probably doing it wrong. And we have a bunch of creatures. These are kind of, mostly creatures. These are just like extra cards that just kind of go with the deck. Being an equipment deck, we do actually need a lot of creatures to hold swords and stuff. Like, that's how we're winning with creature combat. And there are a number of creatures that just go with this. So we have a Recruiter of the Guard. So he's going to go fetch us a creature with toughness 2 or less. So this guy is going to get Stoneforge Mystic, or let's be honest, a lot of the time he just goes and gets Stoneforge Mystic. But he does it pretty well. He can get other random things too, but he's basically just Stoneforge Mystic number 2. We have Eldrazi Displacer. So he's pretty good. He can deal with things. He can tap down big creatures. Basically, he can exile tokens. He can blink our Stoneforge. He can blink our Restoration Angel. He can save stuff. He's just all around good utility. Revelark. When it leaves, you're reanimating stuff. Up to 2 target creature cards. That's pretty bonkers. With power 2 or less. So again, he can reanimate Stoneforge. He can reanimate Recruiter. He can reanimate Recruiter. He can do all sorts of fun things. Well, it's an elemental. Not sure if elementals have gender. Monastery Mentor. This guy is pretty boss. There's nothing really synergistic here, except the fact that you are probably casting a lot of non-creature spells. So Monastery Mentor hopefully will pump out a lot of little mini Monastery Mentors. So pretty good. Linvala. So she's going to come in and hopefully bring an angel with her and maybe gain you some life. But really, she's just a flying 5/5. She holds swords, does all sorts of things. Mother of Runes. So she's going to give your stuff protection. She just taps and gives stuff protection, and that could let your creatures get in to do damage. That could prevent a removal spell, whatever. And, I mean, half the time she just eats a removal spell because you kind of have to get rid of her to deal with other things, so... But even then, she can give herself protection, so she has to eat 2 removal spells. Mom's great. Wingmate Rock. If you attacked with a creature and it enters, you get a 3/4. You get like a copy of it. It helps gain you life. It flies, so it holds swords really well, and it brings friends. It's great to put on the Myriad Sword, or give it the Myriad Sword, because it's just going to make birds nonstop. It's pretty good. Sun Titan, classic white card, Vigilance 6/6, and when it enters or attacks, you're returning permanents with convert mana cost 3 or less, so that's most of your equipment, that's a lot of your creatures, it's land, all sorts of things. Even Mind Sensor, he's just kind of filler. You know, if people like searching libraries, well, they're not gonna, and he can flash in, so that's great. Selfless Spirit's gonna save your team by sacrificing self. You can't flash it in, but hey, he holds swords and stuff like that. Restoration Angel, she's gonna show up and save some people. She can blink your commander, blink Sun Titan, Stoneforge Mystic, blink all sorts of things. And she holds swords as well. Flicker Wisp blinks Stoneforge Mystic and Sun Titan also, and is also just a 3/1 that flies. And we have Thalia, Heretic Cathar. She's a badass. She's first strike, and she kind of wrecks your opponent's non-basics and creatures. So she is fantastic to have on the team. She's awesome. Our last creature is Endbringer. Because remember, we have the Death Touch equipment, and this guy can ping stuff. Oh yeah, and he untaps on every player's untap step, so once you untap with him, you're just killing stuff every turn. Endbringer's a beast. And a new card that I added that really just kind of doesn't have a spot at any of the any other packages I went with, so he's just here in the utility creature section. That's not even a creature, but it's Teferi's Protection. So for 2 and a white, instant speed, everything phases out, your life total can't change, you have pro everything. It's crazy. It just saves all your stuff. Somebody wants to board wipe and destroy all non-land permanents, well, you just phase everything out and sit back, and life is grand. So Teferi's Protection is pretty awesome. Get it in there. So since this is a mono white deck, we don't have too much to discuss about land. There's a bunch of plains. There's I think that was 27 plains. And then we have 2, 4, 6, 8 more lands to bring it up to 35. So we have a Rogue's Passage, make something unblockable. We have Windbrisk Heights, because casting stuff for cheap is nice. We have a Tech Edge, because you know, there's just some land out there that you don't want around. We have a Reliquary Tower, because you're going to be drawing a lot of cards. Having an unlimited hand size is great. Sidgery Step, just gaining protection from color is pretty fantastic. If you just get in there, you know, you can get around blockers, stuff like that. An Inventor's Fair, because it lets us tutor for artifacts. And gains us life. Seagate Wreckage lets us draw cards if we're completely empty. And Nykthos, because we are a mono white deck and we do have quite a few permanents. And yes, a lot of those permanents are colorless, but we still have a lot of white pips on the field. And another thing that's important about these lands that tap for colorless is our friend, where do you go? Mr. Eldrazi, where are you? He's displaced himself out of existence. Mr. Eldrazi Displacer. So, he is a white creature. You can see up there in that little white pip. But his activation cost involves purely colorless mana. So, even though it doesn't say there that those have been eroded to be diamond. So that's producing pure colorless mana. So, to play Displacer, we actually have to play like some number of lands that actually produce colorless. So that's kind of why those lands are there. I mean, again, Reliquary Tower is good in this deck. Inventor's Fair is good, so you might just play them anyway. Seagate Wreckage, I probably wouldn't play that, and maybe it should probably just be a Ghost Quarter or something else like that that has a little more utility, that still produces colorless, again, for Displacer, but it's not the end of the world. Alright. So there it is. SRAM. First Commander deck tech. Low-tech MTG. What do you think? I'm going to put the current deck list in the description down below. So have a look at that. And comment away if you have any suggestions to make the deck better. Let me know. If you think I'm crazy, let me know. If you have suggestions on just how to make the video better while still keeping it low tech, let me know. Talk to you next time.